Some people say, I want to go play baseball.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, just that one little chirp from KD and the way LeBron cracked up in the background was enough to start a real Donnybrook. You just don't go poking the bear when it comes to MJ, eh? It's a total gong show now. NBA legends are coming out, swinging, dragging KD, LeBron, and even young Bronny into the mix. And trust me, the tea is piping hot. Let me fill you in on the podcast that started this whole kerfuffle. You know, some moments in sports are bigger than the game itself. They don't happen on the hardwood or in the barn, but they still manage to shake the whole foundation of basketball culture. And what I'm about to tell you is a prime example. Started as a chill chin wag between two of the best to ever lace them up and ended with the old guard coming out to absolutely flatten everyone in their path. It all kicked off on July 8th, 2025, when Kevin Durant sat down for what was supposed to be a friendly chat on LeBron's pod, *mind the game*. Now, if you're out of the loop, this show has become a staple for Hoops fans ever since JJ Redick took off to be the bench boss for the Lakers. LeBron brought in our very own Steve Nash, two-time MVP absolute beauty to help him break down the X's and O's. And the show's been serving up deep dives into player headspace's recovery routines and how the game's evolving ever since. Technically in season 3 now, the pod focuses on the tactical nitty-gritty and the mental side of things that the average fan usually misses. Durant's visit was a two-parter, easily the highlight of the season, filmed back in the offseason before he got shipped off to the Rockets. Part 1 dropped on Canada Day, July 1st, covering everything from KD's legendary scoring touch to giving props to the 2025 champs OKC for dusting the Pacers in the finals. They talked pace spacing, being versatile, all the stuff that makes modern ball such a beauty to watch. Durant even big-upped his new coach, Ime Udoka, and talked about the mid-range game making a comeback. But it was the second episode aired on July 8th that really stirred the pot. The chat wandered into deep waters, the mental grind of staying elite for decades. Durant got philosophical about what it takes to keep giving 110% year after year. He talked about signing a contract with yourself, a mental deal, to keep pushing even after you've won the whole shebang. So there's a lot you gotta ask yourself. You gotta re-up on the game. Just like signing a new deal, every time you level up, I honestly feel you gotta sit down and sign that contract with yourself every so often. Like, right on. And that's when Durant tossed out a rhetorical question that would flip the script. He goes, what happens when you're 10, 12 years deep? When you've got a stack of MVPs and rings and proved everything, do you still want to give her? Yeah, I'm 10, 12 years in, got 4 MVPs, 4 titles, but do I still want to do this? You know how tough it is. Some guys say, I want to go play baseball, right? Yeah, and then I want to come back. Now let me break that down, because if you blinked, you missed it. Kevin Durant, one of the best scorers ever, just took a not-so-subtle shot at Michael Jordan's 1993 retirement with that baseball comment. The hint was loud and clear. Jordan stepped away. He took a breather. Jordan didn't stick it out, but Durant kept going, pivoting to praise the guys who never took a break, the ones who grounded out for over 20 years straight. And everyone in the room knew exactly who he was chirping about. Well, some people say, I'm gonna go 22 straight. You know what I mean? It's a pact I feel like you gotta have with yourself to be a legendary ball player and have a long career. That's the goal, staying in the show for 20 years. However you get there is up to you, but you gotta commit to yourself first. The comparison was unmistakable. Jordan went to play hardball and came back. LeBron's been grinding for 22 straight years and is heading into season 23. And LeBron, he just about died laughing. People said he was in stitches. That cackling in the background while Durant seemingly threw shade at the GOAT, that's what turned a casual chat into a total gong show. Steve Nash chipped in, but he wasn't the main focus in the clips that went viral. Come July 9th, those videos were everywhere on X and YouTube, racking up millions of views. Almost immediately, the basketball world split in two. Some thought it was just banter, a lighthearted nod to different paths. The vibe was pretty chill initially, with Durant emphasizing how rare that long-term commitment is rather than throwing direct insults. But the Jordan loyalists, they saw something way darker. See, what KD and LeBron seemed to forget, or maybe just ignored, was the tragic context of Jordan's first exit. Michael's dad, James Raymond Jordan Sr., was murdered during a robbery in Lumberton, North Carolina on July 23, 1993. He was sleeping in his Lexus at a rest stop when 2 teens took his life. That tragedy hit Michael hard. He and his dad were best buds, so when he retired on October 6th, citing exhaustion, it wasn't just physical. Anyone who knew the real story understood that hoops had lost its flavor for him after losing his closest ally. In The Last Dance, Jordan talked about how his dad's death drained him, killing his motivation to play. Even after the three-peat, his dad had always wanted to see him play baseball. He'd introduced Michael to the sport and believed he had the talent. Their last convo was reportedly about Michael switching to baseball with his dad telling him do it, just do it. So when Jordan signed that minor league deal with the White Sox in Feb 94, it wasn't because he was sick of the grind. It wasn't because he needed a holiday. It was a tribute to his late father, a way to honor that dream and deal with his grief. While his baseball stats were modest, batting around 200, everyone knew it was a personal mission rooted in loss, not just walking away from the pressure. And that's what made Durant's chirp and LeBron's laughter sting so much. The backlash on social media was instant. One viral post laid it out. Jordan played baseball because it was his dad's favorite sport and how he dealt with the trauma. You don't laugh at that. One comment really hit the nail on the head, saying that's a wild chirp at MJ when we all know it wasn't about hoops, but everything to do with the tragedy involving his dad. One thread that went totally viral laid out the differences plain and simple. Some guys have their father taken in a horrific way and go play baseball to honor him. Others join a 73-win squad. This circled right back to the heat Durant takes for his own career choices. KD tried to clear the air on X starting July 10th, 2025. He fired back at the critics saying he was being disrespectful, making it clear he's got huge respect for Jordan by mentioning he owns $1 million worth of MJ's sneakers. He admitted that even though Jordan hung up his jersey 3 times in 1993, 98, and 2003, he's still the greatest of all time. KD insisted he respects both journeys, Jordan's pure dominance and LeBron's incredible longevity, framing it as just love for the game. I like basketball, even if you guys are more obsessed with the players themselves. But for a lot of folks, the damage was already done, eh? The comments were out there. That laughter had already rippled across the web, and the legends were getting ready to have their say. The old guard strikes back. If Kevin Durant and LeBron James thought this little drama would just blow over, they were out to lunch. What followed was basically a full-on pile-on from former players, analysts, and Jordan diehards who weren't about to let that shade slide. The first major hit came from a guy you wouldn't expect, Kwame Brown. Now, for those of you who might be a bit fuzzy on the history, Kwame Brown was the top pick overall in the 2001 NBA draft, handpicked by the great one himself, Michael Jordan, back when MJ was running the show for the Washington Wizards. Brown's career didn't exactly pan out the way people hoped, and he spent years being the butt of pretty much every basketball joke out there. But lately, he's totally reinvented himself as one of the boldest, no-nonsense voices in basketball commentary with his YouTube channel Kwame Brown Bust Life, and on this topic, he didn't pull a single punch. Brown started off by calling out Durant and LeBron for what he figured was them turning a blind eye to the real situation around Jordan's first retirement. He couldn't wrap his head around how 2 guys who claimed to be students of the game could miss the most massive detail of that whole era. Kevin Durant, that statement was just clueless. LeBron, what are you laughing for? If you're supposed to know the history, Michael Jeffrey Jordan won 3 titles in a row. He three-peated you jackasses. And his dad was killed murdered that summer, I think around July or August. And then MJ retired in October to dedicate himself to baseball, which was the sport his father actually wanted him to play. That is the reason he was on the diamond. But Kwame was just getting warmed up. He went on to break down that Jordan's move to baseball wasn't about dodging the grind or losing his competitive edge. It was about grief, plain and simple. It was a son trying to honor his dad's dying wish while dealing with a loss you can't even imagine. He tried to commit himself to that because he was in a mourning phase. You know, you smart aleck idiots, because he lost his father that year. After he played baseball and was away from the court for about a year or 2, he came back and won 3 more rings. So when you talk about dedication and greatness, at least know what you're talking about while you're all chuckling and grabbing your ear trying to fool this younger generation because you guys are pieces of. Brown's rant went absolutely viral with Ticket TV and other spots picking it up and boosting the signal. And he wasn't the only one either. 3-time NBA champ Ron Harper, who was on the floor with Jordan during that second three-peat, hopped on X to take his own subtle dig at the podcast, saying, "I'm going to start a real show, no bull. If he stopped 3 times, he still won more than all of you." Harper's point was pretty hard to argue with. Even with 3 retirements, Jordan's 6 rings still topped Durant's 2 and LeBron's 4. Former Bulls center Stacey King, another one of Jordan's championship teammates, chimed in during August 2025, renaming Mind the Game to the Crimea River podcast and accusing Durant of taking sly digs at Jordan. They were definitely throwing shade at MJ. Kevin Durant was going on about how playing for a long time matters more than championships, and naturally the sports analysts had to put their 2 cents in. Charles Tabanzi turned the focus on his podcast to the double standard of Durant and LeBron, talking about commitment. In his eyes, their careers are defined by bailing when things get tough rather than facing the music. Tabanzi drew a hard line between how Jordan dealt with the brutal Detroit Pistons and how Durant handled his own roadblocks. KD ran from OKC like a bat out of hell. Not only did he run from the grind and the commitment of trying to win for a franchise that hadn't won anything, you ran straight to the team that kicked your butt. That's like Jordan bolting to join the Pistons, man. That is like Michael Jordan running off to the Pistons or the Celtics. You ran to the guys who put the boots to you, then you ran to Brooklyn. When it got rocky in Brooklyn, what did you do? You took off again. But you're sitting there talking about committing to the grind. What are you even on about? But Tabanzi wasn't finished making comparisons. He pointed out that Jordan didn't look for the easy way out when the Bulls were in the dumpster. He reminded everyone that nobody was lining up to go to Chicago when Jordan got there. The organization was basically a laughingstock. Jordan turned that team into one of the biggest brands on the planet and one of the most unforgettable dynasties in sports history. Meanwhile, LeBron's career has been all about team hopping whenever the situation got sticky. From Cleveland to Miami, back to Cleveland, then out to Los Angeles. Maybe the biggest critic of all was Stephen A. Smith, who's made a living out of being the loudest guy in the room when it comes to sports. And when it came to the GOAT debate that this whole drama stirred up again, Stephen A. laid out the case for Jordan with surgical precision, listing off achievements that LeBron still hasn't touched after more than 2 decades in the league. Michael Jordan was averaging 30 points a game 10 times in his career, played all 82 games 9 times. He made the All-NBA first defensive team 9 times. A defensive player of the year, okay? A 6-time champion, a 6-time NBA Finals MVP, a 5-time MVP of the league. And in your 22nd or 23rd year, you are still chasing that. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but I think it's pretty clear who the greatest is in my book. But Stephen A. wasn't just throwing stats around. He pointed to the moments that defined LeBron's legacy in ways that never happened to Jordan. The failures that Jordan simply never faced on basketball's biggest stage. The 2011 NBA Finals against the Dallas Mavericks remains a blemish on LeBron's resume that no amount of longevity can wipe away. You don't like me because you see me calling it like I see it. You are not Michael Jordan. You are not the GOAT. You did choke in an NBA Finals. 4 straight fourth quarters. In an NBA Finals, this man was scoring 4 points. One game, he put up a goose egg 0 points in an NBA Finals. A fourth quarter with Jason Terry or JJ Barea guarding you. There is no explanation for that. To anyone who knows hoops, that is a total choke job. Stephen A. also brought up the elephant in the room that Jordan loyalists always harp on LeBron's habit of forming super teams throughout his career. He mentioned he never saw Michael Jordan teaming up with established superstars the way LeBron joined D. Wade and Bosh in Miami, or later linking up with Kyrie and Kevin Love in Cleveland, and then Anthony Davis in Los Angeles. Jordan built his dynasty in Chicago through the draft and smart trades, not by orchestrating player movement through free agency. Smith's criticism of LeBron boiled over into a viral courtside confrontation in March 2025 during a Lakers-Knicks game where LeBron reportedly walked up to him and said, "Stop messing with my son, that's my son." That whole scene stemmed from Smith's repeated pleas on First Take earlier that year in January 2025 after Bronny went scoreless in huge minutes against the Philadelphia 76ers. Smith had pleaded, "I am begging LeBron James as a father, stop this. Cut it out." We all know Bronny James is in the NBA because of his dad. Smith later clarified he was criticizing LeBron's parenting choices regarding Bronny not taking a shot at the kid personally, but he stood by his take that Bronny was put in a really unfair spot. And talking about Bronny, this is where the whole situation went sideways, eh? A huge chunk of that heat started shifting right onto the youngest James. Critics started drawing a straight line from LeBron's attitude chirping at Jordan to the nepotism that got Bronny into the league in the first place. Everyone was thinking the exact same thing. How can LeBron have a laugh at the greatest of all time when his own kid is struggling just to prove he belongs on the roster? So you've got Bronny caught in the crossfire while the GOAT debate keeps heating up. The shots taken at Bronny are definitely the roughest part of this whole drama. Here's a young guy trying to make a name for himself in a league where his dad left the biggest shoes to fill. And now, thanks to a podcast chat he wasn't even part of, he's the lightning rod for every grievance Jordan fans have been holding on to for years. Let's get the facts straight on Bronny's situation. He was picked 55th overall by the Los Angeles Lakers in 2024, coming off a quiet freshman year at USC where he averaged just 4.8 points a game. That was a year heavily affected by his recovery from that scary heart issue. Haters argue he never would have been drafted, especially not by his dad's team, without LeBron holding all that leverage as a pending free agent. Those claims of nepotism have been dogging him from the second his name got called on draft night. It was a historic night for sure, with Bronny becoming part of the first father-son duo to hit the court together in an NBA game during the opener against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Bronny's agent Rich Paul from Clutch Sports, who handles LeBron too, reportedly scared off other teams by warning them that Bronny would head overseas to Australia if anyone else picked him. That basically paved the way for the Lakers, making sure LA was the only real option. Then came the contract of 4-year, $7.9 million fully guaranteed deal with a team option in year 4. That is way better pay and security than what guys usually get late in the second round. Most players picked around 55 usually signed two-way contracts with partial guarantees and a lot less cash. But Rich Paul turned down those two-way offers right out of the gate, demanding a proper spot on the roster and guaranteed money. Kwame Brown came up with a handle for Bronny that's stuck in some corners of the basketball world, a nickname that sums up everything critics think is wrong with him being there. We got Nuppo Baby. Homelander Jr. because LeBron is Homelander 1. Homelander Jr. sat out a preseason game. The reality of Bronny's 2024-2025 season showed a guy still trying to find his legs. At the NBA level, he played in about 27 to 30 games, averaging around 1.9 to 2.3 points, 0.6 to 0.9 rebounds, and 1.5 to 1.8 assists in roughly 6 to 9 minutes a night. His shooting was hovering around 30% from the field and under 30% from deep. His time on the floor was minimal, mostly mop-up duty and blowouts or filling in when guys were hurt. And after a really tough preseason outing where Bronny went 1 for 12 from the field and 1 for 8 from 3 against the Phoenix Suns, Brown had seen enough. And this ain't year 1, this is year 2, this don't make no sense. We got high school players better than Bronny. Absolutely got high school players better than Bronny. Bronny was never the best high school player on his team. He was never the best college player on his team, and he still gets 12 shots in a preseason game where everybody's auditioning where nobody normally passes the ball. Brown didn't just stop at the stats though. He questioned the whole basis of Bronny's game, especially the talk about him being a defensive specialist ready for the big leagues. After watching tape from a Lakers game against the Portland Trail Blazers where Bronny got some real minutes but didn't score, Brown broke down the defensive mistakes play by play. I'm watching a kid that they say is a defensive specialist and they run a simple handoff at the three-point line. This guy is not a streak. This guy is not a shooter that he's guarding. The Suns is a horrible team, and I watched Bronny James chase the guy around the top of the three-point line and the guy get a backdoor layup. For people that are saying that he's a defensive specialist, how is this? He don't even know regular defensive concepts that exposed fundamental problems. However, down in the G League with the South Bay Lakers, Bronny showed a lot more potential, averaging around 21.9 points, 5.2 to 5.3 rebounds, 5.3 to 5.4 assists, and 1.9 steals in about 34 minutes a game over 11 contests. He had some big nights, including a 30-point game on December 12, 2024, a career-high 31 points on January 24, 2025, and eventually a season-best 39 points with 7 boards, 4 assists, 4 steals, and a block against the Santa Cruz Warriors. Lakers head coach J.J. Redick spoke highly of Bronny's work ethic, an upside mentioning after his 17-point outburst in March that he is definitely going to be an NBA player. But for critics like Brown, none of that mattered much. The G League isn't the NBA, and Bronny's struggles at the top level were proof that it was politics, not talent, that got him that roster spot. Meanwhile, that whole GOAT debate that Durant kickstarted kept raging on every platform you can think of. Michael Jordan's argument stands on his perfect 6-0 finals record, 6 championships with finals MVPs, and that killer instinct everyone talks about. He averaged 30.1 points per game for his career, still the best in history, and 33.4 in the playoffs. He won 10 scoring titles and even took home Defensive Player of the Year. The guy was a stone-cold killer who loved the competition and put the fear of God into anyone he played, never even letting a finals series go to Game 7. LeBron's case is all about versatility and longevity. A 6'9" forward who can play and defend all 5 spots, he's led teams in every major stat category, points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks in multiple finals, especially that legendary 2016 comeback against the 73-win Warriors. He holds the all-time scoring record and the most all-NBA selections at 21, but his 4-6 finals record compared to Jordan's flawless 6-0 remains the sticking point for a lot of people. Magic Johnson, speaking at InvestFest in Atlanta back in September 2025, remembered a specific moment that cemented Jordan's greatness for him forever. It was a play from the 91 finals that still haunts him, a move that showed off physical talent, smarts, and ruthlessness all at once. I love my boy, I love him, but when Michael Jordan took off with that tongue out, hold up, listen, because a lot of you wasn't born then. 1991 against my Lakers, right hand. We thought we had him, he looked as we went down. He switched it to the left hand, tongue went left, spun it against the glass and good. There's nobody alive that's been able to do just that. That boy is too bad, I'm telling you right now, but LeBron is a bad boy too. He's a bad boy, but he's not Michael. Magic has said time and again that Jordan is the GOAT, saying at that same event, it's Michael Jordan, then LeBron, then Kareem. We haven't seen anybody do the things that Michael could do. He gave LeBron his props as being special and a bad boy too, but insisted when it's all said and done, it's MJ Shaquille O'Neal who played against both legends. Talk about something stats just can't measure. The fear Jordan put into his opponents, a terror Shaq felt firsthand when he went from watching Jordan on posters to facing him on the court. He's the only man that had me terrified on the court because I went from high school admiring him, college admiring him, and then he's right there in front of you and all the stuff you see on your poster like he's doing it in real life. One time, he just blew past me like a freight train. I remember thinking, oh geez, Mike. Honestly, I was absolutely shaking in my boots. But once you look past the face-offs on the hardwood, this whole argument spills over into way more than just hoops. We're talking massive checks and cultural clout. His airness holding that top spot for 20 plus years turned his brand into a monster empire, raking in roughly $6.6 billion during the 2025 fiscal year. King James has that $1 billion lifetime agreement with the swoosh for sticking around so long, but always playing second fiddle to Mike has kept his sneakers from totally ruling the streets. That said, the gap is closing. Surveys show Jordan slipping a bit, sitting at 45.9%, while LeBron is gaining ground with the younger crowd who really appreciate a long career in today's spaced out, less rough and tumble league. However, this whole kerfuffle has exposed something way heavier than just box scores or counting championship rings. It lays bare the divide between old school and new school, how real-life heartbreak mixes with sports glory, and how trying to spin a narrative today can blow up in your face when you mess with the diehard feelings of folks who actually watch number 23 play. KD and Bron probably thought they were just shooting the breeze about the grind of the game. Instead, they tossed a match onto a bonfire that's been raging for more than 2 decades. And sadly, they dragged young Bronny right into the muck of mess he didn't sign up for, making him take heat that has absolutely zilch to do with his own skills or who he is as a person. Now we gotta ask if this shifts how the public sees these guys. Is Durant backtracking and paying his respects enough to get the critics off his back? Will folks eventually forget LeBron chuckling about it? And the big one, can Bronny skate out from under this dark cloud and show everyone what he's made of on his own terms? We'll have to wait and see, but one thing's for sure. In this never-ending scrap between yesterday and today, Jordan's flawless run versus LeBron's marathon, nobody really comes out on top. It's just non-stop arguing, superfans digging in their heels, and a hoops history that splits us apart just as much as it brings us together for the love of the sport. Thanks for tuning in. If you got a kick out of this, go ahead and click one of the links popping up on your screen